welcome back to the So Lux Life podcast. I know it has been a while since I've been on here, but I've just been busy. Life is busy. I am a mom, and this episode is for all the working moms, the working men. You know, everybody could use some help around here, but I'm excited about today's guest. Her name is Katherine Rosenblatt. She is from Ridgeland, Mississippi. She may not be from there, but she lives there. But I'm going to let her tell you about her in just a moment. We're going to give some people some time to log on. So make sure you like, share, leave your questions in the comment section because we will be answering them, and we will be right back.
Welcome to the So Lux Life podcast, where our goal is to enhance the mental, physical, and spiritual luxuries in life. Make your life luxurious through knowledge, coaching, training, and technique. Visit us online at SoLuxLife.com. Here's your host, Crispin J. Watson.
Yes, so we're back. So definitely, you guys, tune in with your questions. I am excited. So first thing first, I'm going to let Katherine tell you guys about herself. How are you, Katherine? First, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Kristen. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited. I love it. So just tell us a little bit about you, just kind of like who you are, what you do.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. I actually went to Ole Miss on a golf scholarship. I played golf at Ole Miss. Post college, I lived in Washington, D.C. for 4 years. Was in IT consulting, and I also coached golf, the women's golf team at Georgetown. And I actually loved coaching more than I loved playing. And I'll kind of get into like the why. I found out the why later on in life. And then I moved back to Jackson and started working as a project manager and pursued my MBA at Millsaps College in Jackson. And then I met my husband, moved to Charlottesville, Virginia. He was then in grad school. And that's kind of when I was like, I had my first child. And I was working my way up in healthcare as a manager. And I was like, I just don't want to do this. I want to spend more time with my son. And so I didn't want to do sales. I want to do something that I could use my brain and my skill set. And so I was like Googling, searching, and I found virtual assistant. And I was like, oh, this sounds like something I could do. And so I found a placement firm. And I joined the placement firm and I loved it. Like I loved the work. I loved working with clients, serving them. I would work. It was a great fit. It wasn't as mom friendly as I would have liked, but I loved it. So I did that for about 15 months. And then we moved to Boulder, Colorado, outside Boulder, and for my husband's job. And then I started kind of getting clients on my own. And then 2020, the pandemic hit. And all of a sudden I was inundated. I went from one client to like 4 clients. I was like, whoa, I have more clients than I can handle. And so I literally started training moms that I had met at the parks. So I was reaching out to moms saying, hey, do you want to be a VA? Hey, do you want to be a VA? I'll train you. I have a client. And so it's the early days of the pandemic. So I'd meet them on my front steps. I'd sit there, plug up my laptop. They have their laptop. We're 6 feet apart and I'm training them. And I realized then I was like, that's why I think I like coaching more than playing golf. Like, I loved watching these women like transform. Like they had great skill sets, had great bones. And then all of a sudden they were like using them. And I feel like, you know, Kristen, your mom, like no one works harder than a mom. And like,
yes,
we figure out how to get it done. Like we have less hours than most people because we have people who need us, people we have to feed, clothe, bathe. Everything.
Yes.
I have loved that. So that's kind of how it's kind of morphed into mom to virtual assistant.
Yes, like you said, like being a mom is a full-time job. And I don't think people realize that. Like you go to work, you're working a full-time job. You come home, the clock doesn't stop. Like you're just getting started. You have to cook, you have to clean, you have to give baths, you have to be a counselor. You just have to
and then
really
they get in bed and you haven't even done the dishes or the
right.
Exactly.
Right. And then you're feeling bad, like I neglected my housework because I'm over here. But like I have to tell moms all the time, like, give yourself a break. Like,
Yes.
cut yourself some slack because
Exactly. I
I
mean,
come
we
in.
have to give each other and ourselves so much grace because, yes,
Mhm,
whether you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a full-time mom, like working mom. I mean, I feel like I hate stay-at-home mom because I feel like they are working moms, like stay-home mom,
mhm.
working mom, mom of special needs. I mean, they are all working so hard.
Yes, yeah, because when people think of stay at home mom, I think people think like, oh, they got it easy. They'll just stay at home, keep the kids. Anybody can do that, but I dare you to try it. Like, stay at home with some toddlers. You'll be wanting to go back to work. Like, let me get out
Yes.
this house. 'Cause people, when I stopped working, like I'm an entrepreneur now, I sell real estate, and my son, he's 3. And people that have followed my journey, they know Grant is a handful. He's getting into something all the time, but he's with me full time. So I'm like a stay at home mom, but I'm also a working mom because real estate doesn't stop.
Right.
So I kind of like your business. Like you help train moms to kind of find that niche, kind of find something that they like to do to
Yes.
assist other people.
Yeah, and with the great, so like there's been all this talk in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times about the Great Resignation, and all these women who are so qualified are leaving the workforce. Whether it's they have high risk family members, whether it's they can't find childcare is too expensive. Some people just want to readjust their priorities in life. They don't want to work 60-hour weeks or have an hour and a
Mhm.
half like commute. They want to spend more time with their family. And so a lot of these women I've connected with and been able to be like, okay, what's your background? I have people who have a lot of former teachers. A lot of them have master's degrees. I
Mm.
also have a bunch of like nurses, people with like clinical backgrounds or
Oh
um,
wow.
tech backgrounds, and then I also even have people with doctorates coming, and it's just really fascinating because like when you look at their skill set, some people are like, oh, I don't know if I'll be a good virtual assistant. I don't have experience in everything. And you start looking, I'm like, you have really good bones. Like you have a great foundation. Like you are
Yeah.
cognitively, like you are there. Like I'm just gonna like morph you and work with you and like talk with the client because you will be a great virtual assistant. You can time manage, you're tech savvy, like really working with those moms. And some of them just need encouragement. And some of them I'll just connect
Mhm.
with the client too.
Yeah, so kind of walk us through like a day to day as a virtual assistant. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
different for like from client to client. But just like overall, like what are some tasks that virtual assistants would be required to do if someone's
Yeah.
interested in getting into
So
this?
a lot of them will like manage the inbox, or maybe there's like a customer support email, right? So a VA they'll wake up in the morning, check that inbox. Like, are there any questions? Are there any leads in that inbox? Are there any customers? Maybe the client has a course. They check the inbox. And then the virtual assistant might go about their day. They may go to the park, children's museum, run some errands, and then they may get an email. And I really kind of coach the virtual assistants on you want to do a virtual nod. And a virtual nod looks like when you get a ping from that email, then you send a saying, hey, I got this. I'm not at a computer now. I'll be at a computer in an hour and a half. I'll take care of this, that type of thing. So it doesn't just go into a dark hole. And
Mhm.
then let's say, check again around 11, check the inbox, see if anything's happening, anything on social. Maybe you do some DMs if you're managing their social media account or scheduling things to go out. And then let's say nap time hits around 12:30. Then you have 2 to 3 hours of time to really, work to carve out, whether it's
Mhm.
working on, in Asana on a project management tool. Maybe it's working in Canva, doing some Canva templates. Maybe it's reaching out to people to do collaborations with or partnerships or having a call with a graphic designer or the bookkeeper, things like that.
Mhm.
Again, like baby wakes up, kids wake up, go to the park, and then the kids go down about 7, little kids go down early, and then you can get some more work done. And it varies because like a lot of my clients, like they only pay for how many hours they work, Crispin. And so
Mhm.
VA, some moms are like, hey, I want 5 hours a week, Catherine. 5 hours is all I want to work a week. Well, there's some clients who only need a VA 5 hours a week. So they are
Oh,
great
no.
fits. But then there's some clients who may have 15, 20 hours a week that they need a VA. And then there
Mm-hmm.
may be, we'll call her Jan. Jan's over here, and Jan's like, oh, my mother-in-law lives with us, or my kids are older, they're all in school. I have bandwidth. I'd love to work 15, 20 hours a week. So they could be a good fit. And so that way, like, it kind of is like whatever season of life that VA is in, they can like
Mm-hmm.
help them match with a client they're a good fit with.
So yeah, I'm glad you told me that, because sometimes I guess when people think like becoming a virtual assistant, like, oh, I'll have to sit there for like 4 hours straight and just answer calls or check emails. But I like how you kind of walked me through it to where you can kind of work it into your schedule as
Yes.
being a mom.
I am all about, so, I worked with a placement firm starting out on my own, learning the whole like virtual assistant world. And it wasn't as mom friendly. So I've really tried to focus on like mom to virtual assistant being mom
Mhm.
friendly because, like I said, moms work harder than anyone else. Like moms who want to make it work, they're gonna
Mhm.
figure it out. They're gonna get the work done, period.
Right.
And whether they're like, I'm gonna stay up till 2 and I'm gonna get this project out the door and it's gonna look great. Like they're gonna get it done. They're not slackers. You can't be a mom and be a slacker. And then, the other thing with that is like, I think some people think being a VA is 8 to 5. It's not. It's really, working off deadlines and priorities. And, when I say 7 days a week, like you don't have to do all that work between that 8 to 5 time. Like you can do it, maybe a bulk of your project is done on a Saturday morning, for example.
Mhm.
Thing. And one thing that I did when I lived in Colorado and I was a virtual assistant, actually got my bestie down the street. I was like, hey, you should be a virtual assistant, Orla. You would be a great virtual assistant. And so I got her a client. This is at the early stages. And then we would just tag team. So like I would take her kids and if she had a project or wanted to knock
Mhm.
out some work, and it's like therapeutic. It was so like fun to do it because it's a break from diapers and
Right.
whiny kids and snacks. And she would knock out 2 or 3 hours. And then I might say, hey, can you take my kids on Thursday? And then we could trade.
I love that, because I think a lot of people don't realize, like, when your kids are with you and like being a stay-at-home mom, when you go to work those 8 hours, suppose you do have like a corporate job, you're getting a mental break from your kids. Like, there's 8 hours you don't hear a baby crying. There's 8 hours you're not worrying about changing a diaper. So I love that, you can tag team with other moms and kind of help each other out in this field. So one thing I'm kind of curious about, what would you say is the hardest part about being a virtual assistant?
So for me and many of my virtual assistants, it's actually turning off. And I say that because, this is common. So a mom comes in and they may have like 2, 3, 4 year gap. They haven't worked. They're like, I want to try this. I want to see what it's about. They get a 5, 7 hour a week client. And then they're like, I love this. This is so fun. Give me more. And it's fun, but it gets to the point where it's sometimes you're real in a good way. Like they're thinking about like serving that client. Like that client says jump and they're like, how high? Or they're trying to stay a step or two ahead of the client, that sometimes you just get so passionate and so invested because this is the VA is the client's right hand. And the VA is really enjoying this role because it's their outlet too from their kids. That I think that's a challenge sometimes for people to like be like, okay, I don't have to do this all the time, even though their client's not expecting it. It's more of like, they enjoy it that much. I hear that a lot. They did not expect it to become that much fun.
Right. So, like, can you be a VA for more than one client at a time? I guess, like,
Great
if
question.
time.
Yes. So some people have 2 clients. I have a few who have 3. I don't, from personal experience, I do not recommend more than 3 because then you're like, whose inbox
Wait, is
is
this
that?
email for who?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. You're like, okay, I said the wrong one. Like maybe you're working for a cattle farm and then you also have a like to know it fashion blogger and you're like getting stuff, like everything starts running together.
Yeah, so like I know you assist virtual assistants, you help them kind of get started. So do you help them find work, or is that like, do you just help
Yeah,
with the
so
training
okay.
part?
Great question. So they come to me and like I have several, like I'll have clients kind of looking for people, like I said, different hours, different time zones. I work with people like clients in the US and Canada, and all my virtual assistants are in the US. And
Mhm.
a majority of them are moms. Not all of them, but majority of them are moms. And so I'll meet Jan, right? And Jan's like, hey, Katherine, I'd love to be a virtual assistant. And so Jan talks to me about like what time zone is she in? We have an interview. We talk about her skills. I also want to hear like what makes Jan tick? Like what does Jan enjoy doing? And
Yeah.
then I get to learn about Jan and what, time zone and hours and her availability. And so then I make notes on Jan, I talk. And then like when I find a client, I'm like, that's a good fit. When I talk to a client and they say, I need a VA 4 hours a week, or I need a VA 15 hours a week, East Coast, Pacific, whatever their needs are. I want them to know
Mhm.
Salesforce. I want them to know Kajabi. I want Flowdesk, whatever platforms they need. Then I go back and I start interviewing, looking at my database. And so that's kind of how I'm kind of like a matchmaker.
Yes, I love it. Because I'm just listening while you're talking, I'm thinking like, should I get me a VA for real estate? Somebody-
Well, I think it's funny you say. So I do have some people who do property management, and so their
Mhm.
virtual assistants manage their Buildium account, and so they're doing like leasing agreements, talking with the contractors, kind of organizing things like that,
Mhm.
reviewing properties that they may want to say, hey, we're thinking about investing in this one, or buying this complex. Can you do some research on what are the schools rated, things like that. Um,
Mhm.
setting up example MailChimp Flowdesk to send out a weekly or biweekly or monthly newsletter, linking like to know it and collages. I mean, they really, when I say they can do anything for the most part, you tell me up front kind of like, what do you need? And I try to find
Mhm.
you the right fit. And I will definitely tell you if I'm like, that's probably going to be very difficult to find. I'm like, can't find someone to fold your laundry, but I can find somebody that can like send it off.
Right, exactly. So do you
Some
ever
people even have their virtual assistants help them with their business and then maybe their
Mhm.
personal life. So helping them schedule birthday parties or a baptism or a housekeeper, a yard maintenance crew, things
Oh,
like that. Some people have them
nice.
help them kind of blend into both.
I love it. So, because some people, they don't want to do like customer service. They don't want to check emails all day, but you might have someone that's good at event planning and they're good at, I
Mhm.
guess, sending invites out to the family for this and that. So it's not just all like corporate based. You do kind of place people that kind of
Yes.
want to
In
do
fact, I
more
mean, I have
personal.
some people who just want a virtual assistant to kind of manage the personal space. Some people do that. And some
Hmm.
people have one for personal and then they have one for business. Some people have a VA and then their business starts growing because when you have that virtual assistant, what happens is it frees you up because your time is
Hmm.
valuable. And so it frees you up to either create more contacts, more content, go after larger deals, do bigger, like you're thinking through strategy and moving your business forward
Hmm.
while your virtual assistant's helping you like be the busy bee, get things done, make sure you're not missing
Right.
emails and things. And so what happens is like I'm seeing this as kind of a trend. People who start having a virtual assistant for a while end up
Hmm.
needing another VA basically. And so their main VA kind of becomes like an OBM, like an online business manager. And
Hmm.
that will then train the next, like the sub VA basically, which is great because there's constant coverage, Crispin. But what's
Right.
interesting is the only reason that client grows their business is because they're able to send tasks to that VA to free them up to grow it. And I'm definitely seeing
Right.
with that.
Yeah, and yeah, that kind of brings me like to what I do in real estate. Like if I need an assistant to show houses. Like I need someone to drive around and show houses, and that will free up my time to do more dollar producing activities, like maybe calling clients, trying to get more contracts. So yeah, definitely. I think if everybody kind of evaluates their life, they could probably see where they need an
Yes. And
assistant.
the real estate market right now is insane. Insane. So when we moved from Colorado to Mississippi, we were in a bidding war a year ago and bought our house on FaceTime. I never would have thought I would buy a house. on FaceTime.
Yes, I sold a house to a client from LA. Like they never stepped foot in the house. Like our showings, we're on FaceTime. Like, okay, do you like this? Like, make sure you see it. Can you see this over here? Yeah, it's like so much like the world is just changing and things are becoming more virtual. I think like after COVID, we all noticed how, we can kind of cut back from actually having to get out there and kind of do
Mhm.
things more virtually, like virtual school. Everybody was at home during that part. So did you see kind of like a spike in business during the pandemic?
Yes, I did. I felt like people were really wanting, it was funny because people needed more assistance. Small business owners were more inclined to go with a virtual person. So people who may have before wanted someone in their house or in person were kind of forced to have somebody virtually. And they did
Mhm.
like it because one of the feedback I've heard from people is like they kind of like having their space but having their person.
Right.
Other thing that I hear is like clients during the pandemic and VAs, like it helped both of them, like from a mental state, a mental
Mhm.
health, because they were kind of dependent on each other. It's kind of like a buddy system because,
Oh,
you have all this happening, you turn the news on and when are we going to get vaccines? When's this going to happen? When can we like hug our family members? Like, you're seeing that,
right.
but then when you're working with your client, you're kind of like focused on like, okay, when's this deliverable? When's our launch? Like you're
Mhm.
focused on the goals of the business and their business. So, but I don't know. It's interesting because I feel like that was kind of very much the feedback I got is like, it really helped them kind of like compartmentalize things.
Yes. So typically, how long does one stay on an assignment? So suppose someone's like, hey, I guess, is it like contractual? How
Oh,
does
great
that
question. So,
part work?
yes. So, like, let's say that you need a virtual assistant, Crispin. So, what that would look like is you and I talk, and I'm like, what are your needs? What are your pain points? If you could wave a wand, are you like, Katherine? I hate these tasks. I never want to do these things again. And it varies. Like, some clients are like, I love bookkeeping. Some of them are like, take the numbers away. Or I hate Facebook, Instagram. I want somebody to schedule all my posts.
Mhm.
It varies. So I get to kind of know what you want done. And then I kind of know about the hours. We talk about how many hours. And so then I go and I
Mhm.
like find the Jan or somebody who might be a good fit. And I'm interviewing, I'm looking at resumes, and then I bring you back a candidate. And I'm like, what do you think of this person, Crispin? And I like
Mhm.
for you to do like a Zoom because when you see Jan, like you get a vibe. Like, do you and Jan
Oh yeah, I can look at a person and tell if we're gonna
right,
vibe.
right, exactly. And you're like, okay, Jan and I are gonna like hit it off. We're like, no, Jan's voice annoys me. Like I can't listen.
Mhm.
Little things that like
Right.
you're virtual, so it's not like you're meeting Jan at the water cooler. Like y'all do have to vibe. And so then if you're like, yes, I would love Jan. Let's work together. Like Jan's going to go through a background check. Jan does have reference checks done on Jan, and then you and Jan start. But like I really encourage like you, the client, to always be in control of their hours. So like that's kind of where
Mhm.
like let's say you start with 5 hours a week and that's your max. Jan will not work over 5 hours a week. Jan may work 3 hours a week, 2 hours a week, or if Jan got COVID for a week or 2 weeks and doesn't work, like you don't pay for anything. And so you're not locked into a contract because at any point, if you're like, Katherine, shutting down my business, I am going to med school. I don't know. But like whatever you decide to do, like you're not locked in. So like at any point you can end it or you can increase your hours that you're working with Jan. So you're not locked in. You just pay for the hours that Jan works up until that point. But
Just kind of pay as you go. So like,
yes.
if I
So
have
like
a really
example, like
big
June
week,
1st, you'll pay for your hours for May. But you'll
mhm,
know because Jan every week is like, hey, I worked 3 hours this week. Hey, and she's never going to go over that max period unless
mhm.
you say, she may come and say, Crispin, you have sold 6 houses this week. I'm at 5 hours and it's Tuesday. Do you want me to go over my hours? And you're like, girl, yes, go over your I need you. Like,
I
I
need you.
really So go up to 10, but she would not do that unless you green light it, or you may say like,
Mm-hmm.
just hold off, punt the items to next week because it's going to be even busier, that type of thing. So I really try to make it friendly for like the client, because the client needs to know, like, from a budget standpoint, like what they're about to
Mm-hmm.
spend, right? But also for a VA standpoint, because when I worked for a placement firm, one frustrating thing that I had was I was locked into my hours. And so I was doing
Oh,
15 hours a week. But if, say, I was sick, I would have to then do 30 the next week. And that was a big jump when I'm used to doing 15. I'm now going to 30.
right.
So the kind of feedback I've gotten from the VAs is they love that they only get paid how many hours they work. But like I said, a lot of them, Crispin, they just love it. They just dive in and they're like, this is awesome.
Yes, and I think a lot of women and moms would benefit from that because we love our kids, but sometimes we just kind of want to do something else.
You're exactly right. Or like some people, like I really try to encourage them that, like, just because they don't mark the box on everything they see online or
Hmm.
from a VA, I'm like, look, you got good bones. Like, you would be a great virtual assistant. Like, are you willing to learn? Are you tech savvy? Like, do you like to serve and help people? That type of thing.
Right. So do you help train? Like, say, a client needs someone, and they're like, "Hey, I need someone that really knows, they're knowledgeable in Canva," and you have someone they're not as tech savvy in Canva. Is that something you would help do, or would you just kind of?
That's a great question. So I'll, like, a lot of times send them course links and encourage them in certain ways. I'm very much a believer that you can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink type
Exactly.
mentality. And so I say that because a lot of times they're taking initiatives. In fact, I have some ladies who are like I'm looking for roles for them, and they're like, what do I need to learn? What do I, where can I, like, that type? And that's kind of like, that's why I tell people, like, you want that person and that
Hmm.
attitude. You don't want the girl that's like, I don't want to learn Instagram, but this is my core. Like, you want someone who's going to, like, mold to what you need and
Hmm.
going to learn. And so that being said, like, a lot of my clients, like, when somebody comes to me and they're like, I want them to know Like to Know It, I want them to know Teachable, I want them to know Flowdesk, I want them to know WordPress and MailChimp, and Kajabi. And I'm like, no one's going to know all of that. Like, if you're willing to, they can learn, and you look at their resume and you're like, okay, this person can do it. Like, that's kind of what you
Hmm.
want when you talk to them about. And a lot of people use this, it's called Loom, Loom video.
Hmm.
And you record your videos, like, you can record your screen and talk through things. And that is a great way to, like, train up a virtual assistant, because they get to see, like, how you manage things, how you handle it,
Right.
things like that.
Oh, I love it. So, one thing I am curious about is the pay.
Oh, great.
I know someone may be wondering, like, okay, like, how much can I get paid being a virtual assistant?
So it really varies on experience, background. There's definitely, like, when you start with a placement firm, you make a little less than, like, when you go out and get your own clients. And I learned that.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like you're building that foundation, and it's kind of like putting money in the bank. Like, you're building your strengths and adding. One thing that I learned was, when you're with a placement firm, you're adding, like, tools to your toolkit, because you have different clients with different needs. And so you definitely can, like, as you grow that toolkit, you increase your rate. You're a contractor, you're a 1099. So, like, that means that, like, they can't tell you when to work, and then your taxes are withheld at the end. So you don't have benefits. So people who are, like, looking for benefits, being a virtual assistant is probably not the best, because you don't have the benefits. But it really, I mean,
Right.
it's going to vary based on, like, your experience and your background. And a lot of it, though, like, I feel like I always want to encourage people, when you start, like, the hardest part is getting started. Because once you're getting started and you start doing that 5 hours a week, and then you grow to 10, and you have a second client, like, that's when you're really building your toolkit to then, and even if you're with a placement firm, like, I had several clients with a placement firm, I was just building my toolkit to break out on my own.
Mhm.
And that's kind of, I feel like, empowering women in that way, because I feel like sometimes we're like, oh, I don't know if I can do that because I don't check all the boxes.
Right. Yeah. And you make it sound so easy. Like you make it comfortable, I think, for women that kind of may be on a fence. Like you're like that go to person, like that in between. Like, okay, she'll
Yes.
figure out what
I'm their
I'm good at.
scaffolding. You're right, Kristen. And I tell them,
And
I always tell them, I'm like, I'm your backstop. Like, I am there. Like, I'm going to cheer you on. If, sometimes the VAs come in, they're like, Catherine, this happened once. My client's not talking to me. I don't know what's happened. And I went and talked to the client, and had been like a death in the family. And so it's just sometimes like there's not communication, or the client
mhm.
may even be like, I don't know if I offended them. What did I do? And it's 9 out of 10 times, or 9.9 it is communication. And so I'm
Mhm.
just kind of like acting as like their scaffolding and their help, and showing them like example, like the foundation of every good VA client relationship is a strong communication, period.
Yes. Anything in life, good
Yes.
communication. Because things
I
can
mean,
get
you do
so
that with a house. If
misconstrued.
you're going to show, if I'm like, I want a 3-bedroom house, and then you show me a studio, I'm like, this is not what I want.
That's not what I asked for. Now my clients like that too. They'll tell me I do not want a house with a pool, but then they'll send me a house. Kristen, can we see this one? I'm like, did you scroll through the pictures because it has a pool? So, are you sure? But communication is key. I feel like, and I feel like just moms in general, we work so much harder, and I feel like we kind of put our all into everything that we do, just simply because we have like little ones looking up to us, and we want to be
Yes.
like, the superhero. So how is it with you? Like, I know you said you have 2 kids and
Mhm.
they're 5 and 3.
Yes. 5 and
So
3.
how is it managing your business,
Oh, great.
having small kids at home?
Yes. So I have them pretty much on a schedule. So I can do stuff in the morning before they wake up. They're now in preschool. So that has helped a lot. I've had one in 4K, one in the twos program. But I mean, I really had to time manage things. I feel like I
Mm.
played sport in college, and that that taught me how to like extremely time manage my life. And so I really just springboarded off of that. So I'd wake up in the morning, I might do 30 minutes to an hour of work, take the kids to the park, spend a lot of time at the park. And then nap time, I would definitely try to do 2 to 3 hours there. And then again, in the afternoons, if they're doing something independent play, I would try to do some time there. And then I have a hard like 7 p.m. they're in bed. And so I'll work till like midnight if I need to. So that's really how I
How do you do it? You need to teach a course on getting your kids on the schedule because mine, I don't know what a nap time is. Like this boy does not take a nap. It's like at all. He's 3. He does not nap when he's with me. And maybe it's because of my schedule because he's not in daycare anymore. Like he stopped going to daycare January of 2020. So he's been with
yeah.
me all this time. And thank God he starts pre-K in the fall.
So
But
I think what happened with us was we lived in Virginia and Colorado. And so I had no family for 1,200 miles. And I realized that, like, if I wanted to have a life, I had to have them sleep. And so
yes.
I took that very seriously because I enjoy my sleep. And then the pandemic hit, Crispin, and like he didn't go to school until he was 2.5. But with the pandemic hit, and I was like, I have to have him like I'm gonna lose my mind. And again, that's
Yes.
where like being a VA was like such a healthy outlet for me. And like that's also where my business grew, because I was just like, I love like the working with moms and hearing that too. And like when I hear somebody that says like, I want to be a VA, like my mom or my in-laws or my sister, they all live in town. I mean, that's a dream, because I never had that when I was working with my own business. And so I'm like,
Yes.
girl, you got this. Like if you have that, or if you have that friend that's like, hey, let's trade off kids sometimes. Because it's
Hmm.
funny, because when you're not, like you said, like, when you're away from your kids working, like it is like a mental break. You get that mental break you can't
Yes.
get from them.
Yes, and when they're with you, like they're with you, like they're with you all day until they go to sleep. So you just don't know how many times I'm like, when is he gonna go to bed so I can have a glass of wine because like I've
Oh
had
no,
enough for
here's
the
to that.
day,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But yeah, like that's kind of the same situation. Like my nearest family is in Mississippi, So it's kind of like a 4-hour drive. So I don't just have
Yeah.
anyone like, hey, mom, I'm about to come drop off the kids so I can get this done. But thank God I finally like made a friend here that,
Right.
you know, helps me out. So yeah,
Right, and
you should
I'm a very
definitely
much a
start.
believer that you have to build your village where you are.
Yes.
I am such a
Mm.
firm believer in that, and so when we moved to town, Crispin, I started, like, looking for my village and, like, people who could help me and babysitters because I just always had to do that. I remember when I
Mm-hmm.
went into labor, this with my second, I had to have somebody take my child so, like, I could have this baby, and I wanted my husband there, and I was like, "Okay," and what's funny is, like, when I moved back, I had these friends that have lived here their whole lives, and they're like, "How do you have more babysitters than me?" I'm like, "Build your village. You gotta build your I
I
built my village."
network. I found it
Right,
right. I know. I just had to build me a village. I found like a babysitter at my church, my friend, and be like, thank God, like my career, real estate allows me to just like bring my kids with me.
right, and the
Um,
flexibility you have with that.
yes, and I like that being a VA, you have that same flexibility to still be a mom, to still spend time with your family. And that was kind of
And
one of the reasons why I wanted to get out of corporate America, just so I could, you know, be home and actually be a mom and be in my kids' lives, you know, instead of having to ask like, hey, can I take off so I can go watch my kid in the play at school, you know? So,
right, same, and I always said, I was like, "I want to find a career that I have flexibility, that I can use my
mhm.
head, but I can also have flexibility and grow." And you're right, I mean, I actually looked at real estate, and I was like, and that was during the '09 when the housing market had
Oh yeah.
crashed. You know, it was not the best time to start a career in real estate then, but, yes, like, it's funny because I do think you and I are similar in that, like, we can definitely say, like, "No,
Mhm.
I have it's easier to put boundaries up," but I also feel like as women, like, moms and being entrepreneurs, like, sometimes you're just like, "I can take it. I can do that. I can do
I'll do
it."
it. Right. I'll work it in. Like it's life, it happens. But I absolutely love what you do. So kind of tell us, so how can people get in contact with you if they're interested in becoming a VA, just kind of the role that you would play in getting
Yeah,
them started?
absolutely. So you can go to my website, momtovirtualassistant.com, and that's where you can there's a link, there's a form to submit. You can also DM me on Instagram at momtovirtualassistant if you're wanting to be a VA or if you just want to talk to me and we can chat more. I love talking to moms. It's my jam. So don't feel like you have to fill out a form and that means that you're doing it. Like, let's talk. Like, I want to hear what are your concerns, what are you excited about, let's talk. And then also if you're a client and you're like, oh, I think I need a VA a few hours a week, am I a good candidate,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do, this is my industry, you can also go there and put a form submission in or DM me as well at mom to virtual assistant.
Yes, I was trying to share my screen here so I could show everyone, but apparently it's not working out.
It's
But
okay.
I will have all of that information so people can get in contact with you. But what keeps you going? Like just you as a person, as a mom, as a business owner, like what's your motivation? What keeps you on your
um
feet?
Probably I was that mom that was in corporate America, Crispin, that was like, I don't like this. I don't like leaving the house at 7 with everything that I have to have for daycare, picking my kid up at 5:30, sometimes staying late, not seeing, if I have meetings and then I didn't even see them the whole day. That was hard. That was
Hmm.
really hard for me as a person because I didn't want that. And
Hmm.
so I remember being like, I will do anything. I want to make this work. And so I think what keeps me
Yes.
going is hearing some of these women who, they want to make it work too. And then being like, okay, let's put a pen and paper to it. How much are you paying in childcare? Now the gas is almost $5 a gallon in places. How long's your commute? Do you have
Hmm.
a significant other who's on benefits? What does this look like for your family? I love talking to moms and helping them figure that out. Because
Yes.
I was that. And so that is kind of what makes me tick. Or even someone who maybe it's a mom that's a stay-home mom and she's staying home, but she is on a tight budget because to stay home, she cannot buy anything new, nothing for, she
Mhm.
can't buy stuff. And so then if she's a virtual assistant, like it's freeing her up. All of a sudden she can pay for like to go to get her nails done or go get an outfit and get her kids signed up for her fall soccer, save for a family vacation. And like, I love that. Like that brings me so much joy when I hear that. Like I love doing that. So that is
Mhm.
what tick. And I also like it when my boys see me working, like they see me happy and enjoying my job. Probably like you do with your kids. Like when you're
Mhm.
like finding somebody who finds their perfect house.
Yes. I love it. I love seeing people close on their homes. But like you said, I just like the freedom. I like the freedom, the flexibility. It's like I'm not even working for the money, but I'm just working so I can just be mom, like
Yeah.
be a mom and be active in their lives. Like you said, like the whole and some people can do the 9 to 5. People have to do it. But if you're like us, it just gets hard sometimes. Like you're at work all day and daycare is super expensive. And if you
Mm-hmm.
have more than one child, it just may make sense for you to stay at home. And because
Right.
at that point you may be working just to pay for daycare. So why not be at home
And
with
it's
your
also,
kid?
I encourage people, I'm like, we have different seasons of life, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's where some of these women, they may just be in a season where they want to stay home for a few years. And so this is a
Mm-hmm.
great filler on their resume until they go back to corporate when their kids are older. So some people do, we're all in different seasons of life,
Mm-hmm.
our journey.
Yes. So if this is your season to become a virtual assistant, definitely reach out to
Yes.
Catherine. So you can see she has a super sweet personality. She will help you get started. So just don't feel like you'll be out there and be lost.
Yes.
Because
And it's
honestly,
not,
before this
yeah.
before this podcast, I was like, even if I wanted to be a virtual assistant, how in the world would I do that? But it's good to know that there are people like you that are a
Yes. And
resource
it's
in
baby
helping to get
steps.
started.
Absolutely, Crispin. Yes.
Yes, I love it. I appreciate you coming on the
Thank you. I've
podcast.
enjoyed this. It was so nice to chat with you. I really enjoyed it.
Yes. So, you guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you're tuning in late, it will be uploaded on your favorite podcasting streaming services tonight. So, you'll be able to listen to the broadcast.